Hey folks, welcome back. So this week we're going to start looking at how to bring in text and how to create text in an InDesign document. So we're actually going to start adding some elements to the page instead of just learning about how to get the program started and all that good stuff. So the first thing I want to do is talk about text frames. All right, in InDesign, in certain programs, you can just click and start typing. I think Microsoft Word automatically opens up and you can just start typing. In InDesign, there's a lot of different elements that are potentially on the page, so we actually have to create what's called a text frame to do that. So I've created just a one-page document, default size. And I'm going to come over here to my tool panel, and we're going to be working with the type tool. All right, you'll see T is the shortcut, and if you click and hold down, you'll see we have two nested tools. We have the type tool, and we have the type on a path tool. We're going to worry about the first one for right now. So we're going to select the type tool and bring our cursor over here, and you'll see the cursor has changed a little bit, the appearance of it. It's got a little typing cursor icon there, and now if you just click, nothing's going to happen, right? It'll change for a second. You can see width and height, but nothing's going to happen. If you click and drag, however, it's going to create a frame, and you'll see the width and height as you drag, and then you can make it however big you want, and then I'll let go. And when that happens, we've now created a text frame, and you can see right here we have a flashing cursor. So any type that I put in here is going to stay within the confines of this frame. So for example, if I just type, I can do anything like I normally would. So that's one way. You create a text frame and you start typing in it. All right. Now you can also import text, because a lot of times when you're laying things out in InDesign, you're going to get source copy or source text from somebody who has Microsoft Word or sends you a Word document or a text file or something like that. So you can obviously copy and paste from these different programs, but you can also bring text directly into the text frame by placing it. Okay, and this is how we bring images in as well. But whenever you have an active cursor in here, and you go to File and Place, you see right here under the File menu, the shortcut is Command D or Control D on a PC. And then we can go find a file. I just find a Word file just as an example. This is an equipment checkout form that I use for students, and it automatically imports all that text in. All right, and then I can go through and I can edit it, I can highlight it, whatever. Now you'll notice that the text, there's a little red square with a plus sign right here. This is an important little icon. This means that there is overset text, which means there is more text than we can see. Because the text frame is a certain shape, a certain size, if we have more text, it's going to run outside the visible confines of the frame, if that makes sense. So to see the text that's there, we can do two things. We can click on our selection tool over here, and I want to talk about the difference between selected text and the text frame itself, the container, here in a second. But for now, if I click on my selection tool, you'll notice that I get these little squares on the corners and then halfway on each side. This will allow me to resize the text frame by making it taller or shorter, or I can click and drag a corner and make it both at the same time. So now you'll see that little overset text icon disappeared, which means now all the text that is in this frame is visible. So if I were to drag it up here, you would see it comes back because now we have overset text. Now you can also right-click on a text frame and go to Fitting, and you see it says Fit Frame to Content. And if I do that, it's automatically going to expand the frame to fit whatever text is inside of that text frame. Okay. Another way to bring in text. Now, a lot of designers use this. I don't know if you've seen this before, but a lot of designers will be trying to lay out a design, some kind of page layout or something, and they won't have the final copy for it. The still being written or being edited or whatever the case may be. Designers will use what's called dummy text. Okay, so if you have a text frame You can actually go up here to the type menu because we're dealing with text, right? You go down to type, and down at towards the bottom, you're going to see fill with placeholder text. Click that, and however big your text frame is, it's going to fill it with Latin, okay? I don't know what this says. I don't speak Latin. But it allows you to kind of see how text is going to look on the page. It allows you to put something there so you can continue your design, and then whenever you get the real text, you can switch it out and drop it in. All right, so you can type within a text frame. You can import text directly from a Word document or a text file or any number of things. You can copy and paste, obviously, and then you can use placeholder text in that text frame. So, and whenever you bring it in, if it's more text than will fit in the frame that you've created, you're going to get that little overset text icon right here in the bottom right corner. All right, so I want to talk a little bit about the difference between active text and a text frame, the container. So right now, when I have a blinking cursor inside my text frame, I can click around, I can highlight pieces, I can delete, I can edit, I can do all sorts of things. And by the way, just for your reference, whenever we're dealing with text in InDesign, one click is going to put your cursor anywhere that you click, all right? 2 clicks is going to select a word. 3 clicks is going to select a line. And 4 clicks is going to select a whole paragraph, okay? If you want to select everything, you can, I believe, click 5 times, or you can just hit Command A for select all, or Control A on a PC, and that'll select everything. Even if there's not stuff, even if there's overset text, it'll still select it if you hit Command A. All right, so just a little thing about selecting text. Now, so whenever I have my cursor active in here, I can click around, I can highlight, I can move all kinds of things, and I am dealing with the text itself, okay? If I come over here and click on my selection tool, you'll see those little squares come up like we talked about. We can resize the container. So now we're dealing with the container, the text frame itself, and not really the text. So that means I can click in here, and it's not going to give me a cursor, but it's going to allow me to move the text frame around. I can resize the text frame. I can connect it to other text frames, which we'll learn about in a later lesson. So I just want to make that that distinction between the frame itself, the object, when I have the selection tool active, and then the type whenever I have the type tool active and I click in here. Now, if you have the selection tool active and you're moving something around and you want to edit the text, you can double click inside that text frame and it's going to switch over to the type tool. Okay, so a little bit about how you navigate these things. You have to have a frame to bring in text into InDesign. All right. Let's see. Overset text, we talked about that. Let's look at the control panel up here. So the control panel runs all the way across the top here. And now you're going to start noticing, now that we have objects on the page, you're going to start noticing that it changes. So right now, when I have the selection tool active and I have the text frame selected, if I click off of it, you won't see anything up here. If I click on this, you're going to see a lot of these things be filled in with values, okay? And this is going to change based on whether we have the text frame selected or the text. So right now, you'll see the XY coordinates. So right now, this text frame is 0.66 inches from the left side of the page and 0.72 inches from the top. And it's using this top left corner as the reference point, as you'll see right here. Okay, so you can actually change the reference point by clicking on these little squares, and you'll see these numbers change. But by default, it's in the top left corner, so we're going to leave it as it is. But you can adjust the placement of this by clicking and dragging, or by clicking up here to change the values. All right. Same thing with the size. You can click and drag. If you want a very specific size, you can type it in by double-clicking, highlighting the number, typing what you want, or you can use the number or the arrow keys to go up and down for width and height. All right. The next thing over is horizontal and vertical scaling. By default, these are linked together, so you keep things proportionate. You generally do not want to stretch text because it starts to look really weird. So I would advise against making one of these 80 and one of these 150. It's just going to look really weird. Okay. We can also rotate our text frames, and we can skew our text frames. So these gives you a lot of flexibility just by using this text frame. We're going to get into a whole bunch of other ways to play with text in a little bit, but for now we're just play around with all of these selections up here. We can rotate it 90 degrees. We can flip it so it's backwards. We can flip it so it's upside down. A lot of different things. Now over here, this is where we start to get into the fill color and the stroke color. So because we have the text frame active, we are dealing with the frame and not the text. So if I were to fill this frame with the color, it's going to fill the background color and not change the text color. Okay, I'm going to Command Z to undo. And then the stroke, just so you can see, if I click on black, that's going to give me a line around the edge of the text. Okay, and I can adjust the size. The thickness of that stroke, I can change it to be dotted lines or double lines or all sorts of different things. All right. For right now, I'm going to take it down to 0 again. Over here we have some text wrap and lots of other options. We have things about whether we want it to be aligned to our text to be aligned to the bottom of the text frame, or if we want to add columns to our text frame, we can do that up here as well. And then we can distribute items. If we have multiple text frames, we can distribute them evenly, vertically, and horizontally. So a lot of different things going on up here. Now that's a whole lot. Okay, we're going to cover that more in depth as we get moving, because this is like a shortcut up here, the control panel. All the things that we do up here, we can access in 2 or 3 other places in the program. So we can do a lot of these things from the type menu, for example. We can also do a lot of these things from the character and the paragraph panel. That's where most of this stuff comes from, and stroke and text wrap. So basically, all of the things that you would come over here to different panels to accomplish, to format your text, you can access most of those things in the control panel when it's selected. Okay, so when the text frame is selected, you'll see these options. Now, if I were to double click in here and select some actual text, then you're going to see some things change up here. Now, since we are dealing with text and not the container, now we have our font menu. Okay, we have the weights and postures of the font. We have the font size. We have the space between lines, which is called leading. And then a whole lot of different things. We want it to be all caps, or superscripted, or subscripted, or small caps, all sorts of different things. Basically, this is all the things that we can do here in the character and the paragraph panel. Okay. Then we can decide if we want it to be right aligned, left aligned. We can add space before and after paragraphs. We can indent. Pretty much all the formatting things you're going to need. So I just want to make sure that you understand the difference between the text frame as an object and then the text within the frame, the text itself. Okay, we talked about how to type text, how to import, all these different things, and then how the control panel is really sort of a shortcut for using these different panels. I actually, when I started working, when I was learning this program, I used panels strictly. So I still tend to come over here to whenever I want to format my text. However, it does make sense. It's pretty easy that all your stuff is up here at the top. So develop your own, workflow, whatever makes sense to you. We'll go from there.